Welcome to the Journey Podcast, and thanks so much for taking just a little bit of extra time out of your week this week to join us as we continue to learn together how hearing others' stories helps us to live a better story ourselves. Addiction is all around us. Oftentimes, we limit our idea of addiction to drugs or alcohol, but in truth, addiction can be, and often is, present in many other areas. So what happens when you decide to face addiction head-on and begin your journey on your road to recovery? Today we're joined by Kevin Ormes, and he's going to tell us about his past of addiction, his recovery story, and how a ministry he now helps lead changed his life. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, and welcome back to the Journey Podcast. My name is Eli, and thank you so much for joining us again today. And today is a really exciting day because I am joined by someone who is integral to our Celebrate Recovery staff named Kevin Ormes. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kevin.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, man. Always excited to share this kind of stuff that we hear about at CR, and then taking this into the church even more, or hopefully people who don't even go to our church hear this at some point. But before we get started, to anybody who may not know you, I'm lucky to know a decent bit about you as we talk fairly frequently. But to anybody who may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, 49. I'm big into sports. Watching them more than playing them.
Yeah.
But I'm a Kentucky fan, which is easy to be in the country. But I'm also a Browns fan, which is not so easy to do in the Bengals country.
That's tough.
Yes. I kind of like being the outcast on that part, to be honest with you, most of the time. I do recovery. It's a big part of my life, and my grandson Killian, spend a lot of time with him, so that's probably awesome. My thing to do right now. So
that's awesome. I love that kid. Every time he comes in, I tell you what, he brightens everybody's day.
Yes.
All around him. I mean, he just comes in, and I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know. Every time he sees me, he smiles and tries to give me a high five. I'm like, I didn't know you knew who I was. I'm happy to see you too, buddy.
I like to think I speak to everybody, but he makes me speak to more people than I normally speak to.
He makes sure you get some extra steps in too, because I see him running for the front door sometimes as well.
Yeah.
No, he's an awesome kid. I know sports is kind of one of the things you and I bonded on as well, because we, I'm a big sports fan as well, and I also am not a Bengals fan. So I know our I come in and talk smack to Adam all the time. Every Sunday he comes in and starts playing the Bengals theme. And every time I just start talking smack to him, because I'm like, it's too early in the morning. It's 6 a.m. I don't want to hear about the Bengals.
Well, I watched the Browns and Bengals with Adam Sunday at his house. And, of course, he was talking about, I want to take a nap by the third quarter.
Well, it was an ugly one.
Yeah.
It was an ugly one. Well, again, thanks so much for being here. Today I just wanted to get the opportunity to hear you talk a little bit about just your experience in life. And everyone has different life journeys. Everyone has different experiences. And I know for one, I feel like I can learn a lot from you, because I feel like you and I have lived very different lives. And you being so involved in Celebrate Recovery is such a good thing because of where you've been. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of your journey, and something that I've always wanted to ask people who live in the world of addiction and have to go through that recovery process is how does it even get to that point in the first place, I guess. So, because to me, we all live our lives as kids, we go to school or we do whatever. Where does that page turn, and where did addiction start to take hold in your life? At what point?
I'm not 100% sure. I can tell you that when I was a kid, I hated alcohol. My dad was a weekend drunk, and he was very mean and verbal. I would hide in my bedroom, wouldn't come out of my bedroom. I would pee in a bottle, not to come out and get a verbal tirade from him. And then I ended up drinking.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time we went and got beer. We all was real young, and I drank a 6-pack, and the other 3 people drank the other 6-pack.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should have known I had a problem then.
Yeah.
But it started out fun. I mean, and that's what's sneaky about it. I do think it's hereditary.
Yeah.
I think there's an addiction gene. I think I have it. I'm pretty sure, But, I would it started out fun, and it's progressive, and you keep building more and more. At the end of my drinking, I was drinking 3/5 of vodka a day.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I would drink a half pint in the morning before I brushed my teeth, or I couldn't brush my teeth without getting sick.
Really?
It just shakes. That first half pint, I would shake it all the way to my mouth, and almost had to have two hands on the half pint. And then I got to my mouth and I drank it. And by the time I came down, my hands were not shaking no more.
Yeah.
So for the longest time, I didn't quit drinking. I wanted to quit drinking before I actually did, but I didn't think I could physically and medically quit drinking.
Yeah.
I thought my body absolutely needed it, and I would die without it.
Well, as you say that, I didn't realize that was a common sentiment among, especially alcohol addicts and drug addicts, obviously, as well, that they were afraid to stop because they thought, if I do stop, I'm going to die.
Well, it put me in the hospital. I mean, I can probably tell more of that story later, but I went to the Hope Center to detox, and they put me immediately into the VA hospital, and I spent the first 3 days of my recovery hooked to IVs in the VA hospital because they thought I was going to have a heart attack and die.
Yeah.
From withdrawals.
Wow. And so when you first kind of stepped into that world and were experiencing that, and where would you say it, because as you said, your dad was a drinker, and was he an alcoholic as well?
On a weekend drunk.
Yeah.
But yes, he would drink 2 or 3 cases of beer on the weekend.
Yeah.
So yes.
And so where do you think, or how do you think that page turned from you hating alcohol to suddenly feeling so dependent on it?
Well, it don't seem like this is true because I'm so outgoing and stuff now, but I was very shy, quiet, reserved as a kid until I went to basic training, honestly. But I could drink alcohol around these other people, and then I come out of my shell.
Yeah.
I was, hiding in the corner until I got a little alcohol in me, and then I could talk to the girls and, make the jokes and have fun. I could do everything I can now, but it took me alcohol back then.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I think, how often do you think that is the case, though? Is that, I guess more specifically is the question, did you feel like you liked yourself more on alcohol when you started?
Oh, yes.
And
yes,
so
I was braver, calmer. Just everything. I thought it was like the cure-all for everything.
Yeah.
But of course, I don't think anybody ever starts drinking and like, hey, in a few years I want to be dependent on this.
Yeah.
Well, several years, but I don't think everybody's like, I can handle this.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's warning signs, and there people will tell you stories and everything, you don't actually believe it because you can drink for several years and maintain a job. I worked at the Shades 20 years, drunk every day.
Really?
Right before I quit, I worked at Frisch's. Right before I went to the detox, I left there and went to detox, but they said I caught on quicker than anybody has ever caught on. And I would drink a fifth before I went to work. I mean, it's just amazing. You make it a part of your lifestyle, and and then you trick yourself because you're like, I'm working, I make money, I pay my bills, blah blah blah, But and it's not the case. You're tricking yourself into thinking that you've got it under control.
Yeah. And
the whole time, after I got sober, I look back at it and like, I wouldn't go to holiday dinners if we weren't allowed to drink at that thing, or I wouldn't go to this function if there was no alcohol, or so alcohol. I was a slave to alcohol.
Yeah, it started just affecting just totally altering your thought process.
Yes, I mean everything was like if I could drink, we can go.
Yeah, So let's go down that path then. Is to me that sounds like it would be sort of a low point. Is when you find like I actually refuse to be in a place unless there's alcohol. Yes. So I guess expound on that a little bit. Where did you think you found yourself at a low point? Well, first let me ask, how many years would you consider yourself alcoholic?
I gotta do some 23 years probably.
23 years. So after 23 years, where was your low point, or were there multiple low points where you're like, man, I've got to get this under control, or kind of where was that?
My low point, my dad would, now I want to go back, and my dad found God and quit drinking, became one of the best people in my life, and And the job I have in maintenance now would not be in with if Dad hadn't taught me all this stuff when I was coming up. So I can't sit there and just bash him. But he would hit my mom when he was drinking and stuff like that. So I swore I would never do that. And my last birthday drinking, I hit a woman. She didn't press charges. I went to jail for AI. So that was almost like, I mean, the only thing I had left on my list of things I would never do was die. And I was working pretty hard on that.
Yeah.
But I hit a woman. Not enough to hurt her. I was drunk, and that's not no excuse, you know. I mean, like it probably grazed her or something, but I still did it.
Yeah.
Try to do that.
Yeah.
Now it was still a couple months after that. That was in January, and it was June when I got sober. But like I said, didn't know how to. I thought it would kill me.
Yeah.
I actually thought not drinking was gonna kill me.
Yeah. And had you gone to rehab before that?
No. And I didn't even go to a rehab. I keep saying rehab, but I went to a detox. And the only reason I went to a detox is I had this little studio apartment on Vine Street. And I lived by myself. I only had it for a couple months. Matter of fact, I got evicted while I was there because I wasn't paying my bill. While I was at the detox, I wasn't paying my bills, you know. But it was the dope house. People would come by my house and like, I can't do this dope in front of my wife, so let's do some dope. And if I laid in there sick trying to get sober, and they came by with some dope, I would do it.
Yeah.
So I just needed to get away from Maysville.
Yeah.
So we did 7 days in the Hope Center, and I came back to Maysville, moved above a recovery center that was on Forest Avenue. They had meetings day and night, every day at noon, every night at 7.
Really?
And they recommend you do 90 meetings in 90 days. I did 180.
Yeah.
I did 2 meetings a day for 180 days because I was really struggling. Learning how to live.
Yeah.
When you spend all your life in a dependent state, I was always drunk, so I learned how to do everything drunk. And then when you sober up, you have to learn how to do everything new.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. I mean, like going to a dance. You know, like I hadn't done that sober since I was old enough to go to a dance.
Yeah.
I mean, like you know, at a club or something, not at a school. You know.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's I can't imagine. I genuinely can't even begin to imagine how hard that journey is to like take that first step into that journey. And so were you saying, and maybe I misunderstood here, but you were saying you struggle with both drugs and alcohol?
Yes. Yes, I did a lot of cocaine and crack. I never did really get to the needle, as that's big nowadays. But mainly the cocaine habit was easy after I quit drinking because like I would get so drunk I would have to get some cocaine to come back off the drunk, and then I'd be so high on cocaine I had to go get drunk again. It was like a vicious cycle. They kind of like interceded with each other.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense why you were concerned about your health, if that that constant cycling in and out of downer and upper and downer. And
now it'd be 6, 7 days before I would go to sleep usually, and it's a terrible life, and and it bugs me, or I can't say it bugs me, but when people tell me, I can't find a way to a meeting or I can't do this, I'm like, I found a way. I mean, like to use cocaine and drink every day and didn't have that much money coming in. There's always if you want to put if you put half the effort in getting sober as you do as chasing dope, you'll succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. And so where did that, then you say if you put half the effort in, what pushed you to take that first step? So you've gone to the detox center, and I'm sure that was difficult in and of itself. What was that like, being in the detox center for 7 days?
I don't remember a whole lot of it. Yeah. I was still, I mean, the first 60 days I had cobwebs in my head like you wouldn't believe. I remember after 30 days I spoke at a thing. I had my first month clean. I mean, I don't remember, and of course I didn't know what I was talking about, but I mean, it was a bunch of cobwebs. I went to it was a homeless shelter. The Hope Center is a homeless shelter.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to, but like I said, I just had to get away from her. Now, I did my 7 days, and they said, well, you can do the work program, or you could go back to town, and I recommend you do some meetings. It was funny because not funny, but I went to the Hope Center, and they're like, what all do you do? And I said, well, 3 fifths of vodka a day, cocaine, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, do you smoke? And I said, yeah. They said, we're going to get you a carton of cigarettes. You're not giving that up now, too.
Yeah.
You got too much other stuff. You're going to go nuts.
Yeah.
They went and bought me cigarettes.
Yeah. Wow.
You know,
that's interesting because the thought of someone who doesn't do that, it's like, yeah, we need to get all that out.
Yeah.
We need to stop all that stuff.
And that made me think about something I wanted to say earlier. And another reason I didn't think people didn't drink. Everybody around drank.
Yeah.
So I didn't think that was a common thing. Like I was like everybody drinks. So, you know, what would I do if I quit drinking? Because there's nobody that doesn't drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I truly believe that.
Yeah. So what then? Okay, so you've left the detox center. You're at the Hope Center now, and you said you did 180 meetings in 90 days, which they encourage you to go to 1 a day, and you went to 2 a day because you knew. So how did you get to the mindset where you knew, like, no, I need this 2 a day. I've got to get this figured out. What got you to that mindset?
Fear. I was scared of going back there. It's the first time in my life I was scared to die. I'd never been that. Like, I was never suicidal, but I was always welcoming death.
Yeah.
If you told me that this is the dope that killed somebody, I'm like, oh, give me some.
Yeah.
I wasn't scared to die, and I'm like, if it happened, it happened. And I made a post about it the other day in high school. I wrote a paper, my junior year in high school. They're like, where will you be when you're 25? And I said, I'll be dead. And I truly believe that, and I didn't care. And now it's a whole different thing. I was fearing death then.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't have God in my life. Now I have God in my life. I don't fear death, but I don't want it to come anytime soon because I'm enjoying my grandkids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different thing. I know what's promised for me up there, but I don't mean I need it next tomorrow.
Sure. And so do you think that fear stepped in whenever you finally finished that detox and you had a clear mind for the first time in what probably felt like half a life?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. And I got around old timers, and I walked in, and they said the first thing you only have to do one thing to be in recovery. And I said, what's that? And they said, you got to change everything. I thought they was full of crap. I remember I went to the meeting there on the avenue, and went into the bathroom, and they had a sticker on the mirror that says, you're looking at the problem. And that was very deep because in our addiction, we always like, well, she didn't complain so much, or they went so hard on me at work, whatever, vice versa, whatever it happened to be, whatever you wanted to put in excuse. Then it got to the point I just drank on days in and why.
Yeah.
Where I drank every day, and I guarantee you, it was probably 14 years I was never ever sober.
Man.
I mean, even getting up in the morning going to work, I was still drunk from the night before. I mean, there's no way I was ever sober.
That's a brutal way to live, man. That's a lot of. I can't imagine the strain and stress that puts on your body. So looking at, you've gone to the Hope Center for 180 days, or for 180 meetings for 90 days. And so when you started your recovery process, I know some people have struggled with relapse before. When you jumped in it, were you able to jump in with both feet and say, no, like I have to fix this now? Or were there points in your life where you're like, you know what, I need to get clean? And even if it lasted a day, was it something that stuck the first time with you, or did you have to have multiple attempts at recovery?
When I went to the Hope Center, I have not used since.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
It's a very rare coincidence. I even got cocky about it. I told a sponsor about 60 days in, I said, look, all these people going back out and using and everything. I haven't relapsed. And he said, did you ever wake up on a Sunday and say, you're never going to do this again? I said, yeah. He said, did you do it again? I said, yeah. He said, guess what? You relapsed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I relapsed all the time.
Yeah.
Before I decided to get in recovery. But once I got in recovery, I've relapsed on food several times.
Yeah.
Or even like road rage. There's things that pop up. But
sure.
Alcohol and drugs, I have not relapsed on it in a little bit over 13 years.
That's awesome. I'm proud of you, man. That's awesome.
I'm blessed, but I try to stay. I tell all these people I sponsor, I can't say all these people I sponsor, I say stay green on the vine. I tell them stay green on the vine, because if you think you're ripe and you got it all figured out, you're going to go back out. You get thrown away. You're rotten.
Yeah.
So I learned, and it's about CR. I come in and these people, I get a 13-year coin, and I'm happy. but they get a 30-day chip, and I get goosebumps. I got goosebumps coming up right now just talking about it. I see these new people coming in, and they get their families back and their life back, and they're like, I got my job, I got my license, and all that stuff just thrills me to no end.
That's amazing.
But at the same time, they come in and they're struggling. And the day I forget that I would be struggling, this helps me see that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't get complacent.
Keeps it fresh,
I don't think, hey, because it's 13 years, I could talk myself into saying, hey, maybe I can handle it now. It ain't that bad.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
And staying in recovery helps me do that.
For sure. So then, as you kind of came out of recovery, and I know you're always in recovery never stops. You continue, but as you finish the intensive part of the recovery, where it's like you cleared that 90 days, how long was it until you found God, and in what way were you able to finally see God revealing Himself to you?
Very good question. Very good question. So I grew up with a vengeful God. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be in a relationship with God.
Oddly enough, a lot of people have. Oddly enough, yeah.
Yes, every time. It would be like, you got to see on your paper you're going to hell. Mm-hmm. You've said this, you're going to hell. And then we went to these churches where once you got saved, you weren't allowed to ever make a mistake again.
Yeah, tough.
And it was very condemning. And my parents were like that, but their parents taught them. My great grandfather died in the rattlesnake church, where they put their hands in the rattlesnakes.
He died by a rattlesnake?
Yes.
No, are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you one bit.
I've never heard of anyone who actually knew someone who died from that.
I didn't know him. That was way
still,
before
he's
my
in
time,
your
but still,
family. That's incredibly interesting.
And that was all passed down. And so they're like, don't you want a relationship with God? I'm like, no, it's God's trying to send me to hell all the time. Why would I want a relationship with God? He don't have my best interest for me. And that's what I thought. So when I did my steps the first time in NA, I did NA, a secular group, before I come to CR. They say whenever God showed up, just think of it as good, orderly direction. And that's the only way I could do my steps the first time, because I had that problem with God. So then I got married after in recovery, and it didn't end on the best thing, but her kids are still part of my life. But she also talked me into going to church. We went church shopping, if you want to call it that. I don't really like to call it that now, but that was called
I get it.
That's what I called it.
You're trying to find the right place for you.
Yeah, we went to several churches, and I worked with these 3 young kids at Applebee's. When I come back, Applebee's was a terrible job. Everybody cussed, they fought. It was just straight drama every night. There was 3 kids that was always happy in there. Yeah. And I'm like, what are y'all? They're like, God's part of our life. Yeah. So like the third church we went to is their church. Their dad's church is Victory Christian Center. Okay. Yeah. And the pastor said, you know what? God's not mad at you. He's not even in a bad mood. Yeah. And that one line, I didn't get a white picket fence next day and everything, but that one line said, hey, I'm going to give God a chance. Yeah. Now, of course, God, I didn't have to ask him for a chance because he's been there all the time. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm still alive. Because I tried everything to die. Yeah. I'm here for a reason, and I like to think it's recovery, but it might be something bigger than that. I don't know. I don't know his plans. Sure. But the only reason I'm here is because of him. But I hadn't accepted him in my life. So I go to that church and I start letting God in my life. And my NA sponsor at the time said, now you need to choose between God and NA. You can't do both. Really? Yes. Wow. Yes. So I was like, well, I'm going to choose God. At the time, I was like, me and my wife's both doing this and enjoying this. And I think it's good for the family. I didn't look back and think I might go back out. There was a chance, though. That's scary. Because I was about 3 years into recovery at that point. So I was just floating around. And I would get off at work some Sundays at 10:30. And my church started at 10:30. And Cross Point starts at 11:30. So I'll come over here a couple times just because I would get off. And it was like, I didn't get to church late because I do not like being late. Sure, yeah. You even got here 25 minutes early. Yes, I know that. Yes. So I came here, and then, like a week later, Chad sent me a card and said, I heard you was a good guy to try to start this recovery thing. Would you like to get Celebrate Recovery started? I'm like, I don't even know what a Celebrate Recovery is too much, but I'll look into it. And it's a faith-based 12-step program, which is, part of my life. And I said, let me think on it. And he called me back about a half hour later and said, "Well, okay, I got you signed up for a conference this weekend."
That sounds like Chad.
I'm like,
that sounds like Chad.
Okay,
yeah.
let's do this, and
Yeah.
that's how CR began at Crosspoint, is Chad, and the support of the church.
Yeah.
I don't think we would be where we're at without the support of the church, because if you had two entities in there and trying to battle each other, it wouldn't work.
Well, and CR being here is a huge reason why I even came here in the first place, because the church that I worked at before I came here had a Celebrate Recovery program, and in my mind, I was like, that's such an important ministry. Like, I really want to go somewhere that has that as well. So it's awesome. I mean, you guys do really great work, and it's a privilege for me to be able to join you guys when I do, and just see the parts of it that I get to see. You guys do a great job. Well, like I said, I feel like for sure I am. It's always such an honor to see how much everyone there cares for everybody around them, and you guys just do such an amazing job. So wrapping up, I don't want to keep you here all day, but if someone here is listening and they're actively in addiction or thinking about recovery, and even if they're hiding it from people and they look like they have it all together, and addiction comes in many forms. It's not just drugs and alcohol. It's not just...
Yes, that was my form.
Yeah.
Alcohol and drugs was never even my addiction.
Yeah.
That was my Band-Aid for my addiction,
sure,
for my problem.
Yeah.
That's a temporary solution for a permanent problem that we need to fix.
Yeah.
And that was just my Band-Aids. People use gambling, sex, violence, whatever. We all have habits, hurts, and hang-ups. It don't have to be alcohol and drugs, although my biggest ones were alcohol and drugs.
Yeah. Which I would venture to even say, just about anything could be an addiction if you use it if you use it as a means to some excessive means. But so to anyone who may be listening and is in addiction right now, what would you say to them? What would you say to them?
I just wanted to tell you, like, I had chalked myself up. There was no hope, and there is hope. And you don't even have to get into the God thing right now. Some people have an issue with that. There's an old Charter Ridge commercial back in the day that said, "We don't care where you get help somewhere."
Yeah.
Go to AA. I do AA on the side too.
Yeah.
Go to CR. Whatever fits for you, but there is help and there is hope. I've seen people do it every single day. I remember people said it in front of me. Look at Kevin. He did so good in school, and he's wasted his life. He's useless. I mean, I heard people, and they act like I couldn't hear him. They'd be right there talking about me useless, and I'd just be drunk, and I thought I was useless too. So I didn't even reiterate, So, and the words hurt. No matter how big or bad you think you are, the words can hurt. But there's definitely hope out there. If I could do it, anybody can. I know that's a cliche thing to say, but I mean, and let the journey take you where it's going to take you. You couldn't have told me 13 years ago I would be part of a ministry team in a church, talking on stage in front of a church.
Yeah.
When that was everything I was ever always against.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And helping people. It amazes me, I stay grateful every day. I know God's using me to help other people. Do I always do it right? No. Do I get upset and hurt when people go back out? Yes. Yes, I do. But, all I could do is plant seeds. I planted a seed. I worked back when I was working at Applebee's, and it was going in there. There was a guy, 10 years later, got a hold of me, and he said, "Man, are you still sober?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "I've lost my wife and my kids.
Wow.
Can you help me?" And so we worked through some steps and everything. Well, he's back in with his wife. He's back in with his kids.
Awesome,
he's sober, 3 years sober now.
That's so good.
Because of a seed I planted 10 years ago.
That's awesome.
And it wasn't even a seed I planted. I don't have to and I think the same way it's got to be the church. I don't have to cram God down your throat. I don't have to cram recovery down your throat. But I have to live my life so good that when you see something that I want, you say, "Hey, how'd you get that?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to be reflections of what God's done in us.
The same way I asked them 3 kids at Applebee's 13 years ago, 10 years ago, "How are you all so happy?" And they're like, "God."
Man, that's awesome.
And now I wind up in church, because of the way they live. Not because, hey, here's a book on the end of times and it's going to scare you the hell out of you about Revelations and all this. And, No. we got to show people love, and then they want what we got.
Yeah.
And that's
awesome.
how I think that's how church, recovery, and everything works.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your time. Thank you for being transparent and vulnerable with us about your story, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Anybody out there who's listening, whether you go to Crosspoint or whether you just happen to randomly find us, we're so glad you stayed and listened to us as we talk through addiction and recovery today. If you haven't gotten the chance to go back and listen to some of our previous episodes, we've got some really good ones that we've done with some people who run a whole gamut of stories that they've lived. And so thank you again so much for being here, and we hope you join us again next time as we hear other people's stories so we can learn to live a better story ourselves. Thanks.